Good morning. Yesterday we travelled up towards Colchester here to meet up with Tony and Chuffy Merewether, 42nd cousins of Bev. She's found them through her research into the background of her book. She's in hosting us for 2 nights here so we can meet with them and understand the environment here in and around Colchester.
This gentleman is Tony Merewether, and he's my 42nd cousin. I found him on the internet, as you do.
Just found me.
So Tony, you're living in a little village called
Easthorpe.
Easthorpe. So in New Zealand we've got houses that are sometimes up to 80, 90 year old, and we think, oh, they are very old. Just give me a clue on how old this one might be, Tony.
Well, this one could be about 700 years old.
700?
Yes. And that's very old round here as well.
Yeah.
But there are a few old houses round here, including the 2 opposite.
Yeah.
Well, we bought the house in the 16th century, but we're told it's 14th century downstairs.
Downstairs, so add-ons to the original.
Yes,
building.
it's been added on quite a bit. The downstairs would be a single-storey house, would be 14th century. Then it became 2-storey in 16th century.
Yes.
Yeah, we believe this to be a Roman road.
Yes.
It's pretty straight for this part of the world.
So the Thames River's down behind here, the Thames estuary?
No, it's kind of that way.
Yeah, yeah. And London for you?
London's that way.
Back.
London's that way. London's that way. When we bought it, it was pebble dashed, which is a very coarse render, and we've made it a finer render.
Right.
We had to get permission for that.
So this house across the other corner here, Tony,
Yes.
What sort of renders on that one?
Well, that's the traditional timber framed house without any render. Well, without covering up the beams.
Yes.
We'll have that underneath there,
Yes.
because that's how our house was built.
Those
But that may be slightly older, I'm not sure.
Do you have any idea of the purpose of that house? Did it have a tradesperson living
But
there?
it's called Well Cottage.
Oh,
So maybe there was a well,
yeah.
the water. And our house was the ale house and the blacksmith.
All at once, maybe?
I think so, that's what
Yeah.
happened
Yeah.
in those days.
Yeah.
And then that was another old house as well opposite. So I think these 3 houses were the old ones in the village.
Yeah.
And then everything else has grown up since.
Easthorpe, yeah.
All the local villages have little signs like this with a kind of few of the characteristics of the village. And on this one, there's the sign of the Bell pub, which was our house on the right hand side. There's the church, and I presume the sandals are the Roman connection. And I'm not sure about the horn. Right. Yes, that before,
Oh.
but this is a very old church.
And it has a rose, and the rose has some meaning, some sort of medieval meaning.
Yes, so I'm not quite sure the connection.
Yeah.
Yes, but that is rather a sweet little window.
Cathedrals have that kind of thing up there, don't they?
But I think that's more a cross than a rose.
The steeple could have been.
Could have been added, yes.
And do you say the age because of the type of material that built it?
No, that's quite common,
Right.
but it's because of what Okay, so we believe the bottom half to be 14th century, and then the top half would have been added. This is of the front half of the house would have been added in the 16th century, and the brick fireplace would have been put in as well. And then the rear of the house was added in the 1900s, again at various stages. And I think the latest edition of one of the back bedrooms was in about 1970. But there's a crack, because the front half of the house won't have any foundations, the front half of the house moves independently to the back half of the house. So there's a crack down beside the drain pipe, and I repair that once a year at least. But the front of the house does move independently. Yeah, so when we bought this house, this was 2 rooms. So the kitchen was only half the size. Right. So I knocked out this room where Bev is, was just a mess. And we knocked out the wall in the middle, which has made the kitchen a decent size. Yep, so this is into our sitting room.
This is obviously the older part of the building, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, this is the older bit of the house, and you can see the beams, original beams and studs here. And at some stage this was all opened when we bought the house. This was all opened up, but it just makes the room feel a bit bigger. Yes. And the fireplace, which was added in the 16th century, these bricks are really old bricks. These aren't quite so old, but we believe these to be Tudor bricks. And this glass, these fire doors were here when we bought the house. We didn't add these. So this is how it was. But it means that when the fire's not on, the cold air doesn't go up the chimney. This is where we can work from. Our little workstation with a really good view out into the garden. Lovely. Yeah. And the exercise bike, which isn't used enough.
Lovely. But you've got a nautical theme throughout your house because you were a Commodore?
Well, I've been a Commodore and I sold yachts for most of my life. Yes. And with my marine connection, all the a lot of photographs and paintings, yeah, are all nautical.
What have you got here?
Well, I've got a few of them on the wall here. These miniatures. Although I must admit I can't tell you who they all are. Right. They were a little before my time. But they're rather nice little pictures, all hand painted. So this window is a very old window, must have been original, and I presume that was before they had any glass. Yes. And that's how they used to have all the windows in the medieval houses in London. It just stopped people getting in and out, but it's rather a nice feature in the sitting room.
And these big beams here, you see nail marks here from years gone by.
Well, we think these may have been out off a ship. Yes. Because some of them look like they've had an alternative use. But these nail marks here are probably where there was a false ceiling at some stage, because there's a lot of nails there. The construction of this house as a timber frame would have had a wooden sill all the way round, and there was no foundations. And I presume you had a soft mud floor, which later became brick. And I believe this house had a cellar as well. But in recent years, the wooden seal at the bottom must have rotted and was taken away. That just shows you where that's cut there. But below that, there would have been a wooden seal. We've now got bricks underneath there and a concrete floor. So the whole of the house, that's what normally used to happen, is the sill, the bottom sill just rotted away where it touched the ground. But that must have led to a little bit of movement as well on the house.
Well, this would have originally been an open fire, and the cooking pots would have hung from this bit here. There was a hole here, and they would have swung in over the fire and then swung out again when they wanted to take the food out. And there was a chap here who lived in the house. We've researched this and we found that he was imprisoned for baking and selling bread without having been apprenticed to a baker. So it's got quite an interesting history. We don't know. I don't know where the bread oven was. It's vanished.
And so upstairs we've got 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and a storage cupboard. So far more than we want. Yeah. But follow me upstairs and I'll show you around the bedrooms. Okay, so this is upstairs where the bedrooms are, and this bit in front of me here is the old bit of the house. So through here we've got one of the bedrooms where
Melvin and Bev stayed here
yes.
last night.
Yes.
That's lovely. Roof is shorter by normal standards, but there's just enough room above Tony's head. And you're a 6-footer, are you?
Yes, I'm over 6 foot. The legs on the right hand side of this desk are 4 inches longer than the left hand side because the floor slopes down away from the chimney.
Right.
And in our bedroom it does the same thing.
Right. Here we go.
So in our bedroom here we've left the floorboards, or some of the floorboards, exposed. And you see the size of these floorboards, they're really wide. Because modern floorboards are about half that width, and that's us on our wedding day. 36 years ago that was.
And you were married in the church nearby, weren't you?
In Dedham, where you went yesterday.
Yes.
So I'm going to show you in this bedroom, which is full of washing at the moment and ironing. But I wanted to show you this bit here, because this is the back of the old bit of the house, and here you can see where the old roof started, because these are angled, and this is why the listed building lady said that this was the front half was a single-story house. You can see where the roof was joined on.
Yes. And the timbers are very much older on the bottom here.
Yes.
And away you go.
These must be old. These look a little bit newer, and this room we're in is obviously a newer. It's a modern, well, not that modern, but it's probably 50-year-old extension.
Yes.
And the final bedroom, bedroom 4, is here at the back, and this I think was added in the 70s.
There's a lot of space here, isn't there, for a big family even, Tony?
Well, yeah, this was a family house before we bought it. We don't have any children, so these rooms aren't always used. But for 4 double bedrooms is a reasonable size. Okay, so this is the Merewether family tree, which was compiled by my grandfather in the 60s, 1960s, after he'd retired, and this was all done before the age of computers. And him and his wife used to go round all the churchyards, Somerset House in London, and they compiled it all from no computers, documents, real live documents. Yeah. And this book is 20 pages, loads of names in here. I think there's about 400. I've so far put 400 on Ancestry.com. Yeah. But it's a really good record, and it links through right the way back to the Dean of Hereford. Yeah. And to your ancestors.
Yeah, his father, and way before.
Yes, back to about, I think we've got the 1500s in here, but it does get a bit vague.
It got very vague as far as the New Zealand.
Yes, because the name Merewether, going back a long way, actually including on our wedding certificate. Do you remember our marriage certificate? They spelt our name wrong, so it's very easy to spell the name Merewether wrong, and that's why it's hard to trace some of the family.
Yeah. And my father's grandfather didn't help because he changed his name entirely.
Yes.
From Philip Sidney Merewether, and I was so delighted that they'd recorded him as Sidney, because the letters from his mother and his sister referred to him as Dear Sid.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so he changed his name from Merewether to Murray.
That's why there's no records. My grandfather couldn't trace the bit down to your family tree, but you've now made the connection.
Yes.
So that's how we can tell the relationship.
Yeah, yeah.